Hi, I'm Viviana, and I will be doing a tutorial on GitHub and GitHub Desktop client. So what is GitHub? GitHub is an online platform for version control and collaborative software development. It's built on Git, which is a system for tracking code changes, and Git is the most popular version control system in the world. So I listed some main features here, which include code hosting, collaboration, version control, project management, and automation. So why is GitHub important? It allows developers worldwide to easily collaborate. It also supports millions of open source projects. Also, what I'm going to be showing you, GitHub Desktop, it's a free GUI app that allows you to manage repositories on your machine and GitHub without using Git commands in the terminal, which makes things a lot simple. So relevance and importance in LAMs. So it supports open source development. There are many LAM institutions that build or adapt open source tools for digital collections and use GitHub to basically publish, share, and improve on these tools. Also, it supports collaboration and transparency by connecting LAM professionals worldwide and help build networks that strengthen cultural heritage projects. It also promotes open access and transparency through documentation and research. Also is important in preservation and sustainability since it's a repository for code, data, and documentation that helps preserve digital work over time. So here are some specific examples of GitHub usage in LAMs. There's a lot more. There's just a few that I listed here. First is Archivespace, which is an open source archives information management system, and it uses GitHub for its source code, managing releases, and accept community pull requests and issues. Koha is an open source integrated library system, and it also uses GitHub to host its code base, track issues, and contribution from libraries and developers around the world. There's Folio, which is a modular open source library service platform built by community of libraries, vendors, and developers. And it also uses GitHub to organize its module, microservices, APIs. And then there's Archivematica and also Library of Congress, which I'll show you Library of Congress GitHub later when I clone one of its data sets. So let's get started. So for prerequisites, you need a GitHub account, and you can do that by signing up. And then you need to download the GitHub Desktop. And once you've done those two, you'll need to authenticate and link the GitHub account to your GitHub Desktop. And also any programming language and software required for the specific project that you want to work on, such as Java, Python, Jupyter Notebook, Code Editor, etc. So here is where I did my account registration. I used my Simmons account. And then here is the desktop download page. Here's where I authenticated my GitHub account and linked it to the desktop client. So here are some of the useful Git terms and concepts before we get into it. So there's working directory. Essentially, it's your workstation where you can edit the code on your local machine. There's the repository, which is the most basic element of GitHub. It's where you store your code, files, and revision histories. There's branches. There are parallel versions of your code within the repository. You'll have a main branch and then other branches as you're working on specific features. There's full pull requests, which is the request to merge changes from one branch into another. Merging, taking changes from one branch and applying them to another. And then cloning, which is downloading a copy of repository's data from GitHub. So I'm going to be showing you a few things. I'm going to show you how to create a repository, show you also branches by updating, committing, and merging, and showing the different stages of a project, and then getting back to an older version, which might be necessary, and cloning a remote repository. All right, so when you open up GitHub Desktop, you'll probably see this after looking into your account. Right now, I don't have any repositories, so I can do several things. I can clone a repository from the internet. I can create a new repository for my local drive or add one existing repository. But I don't have any existing ones, so I'm just going to create a new one. I give it a name. And then I'm going to add a README. This is important, especially if you want to make this a public repository so that other developer can see what is actually in your repository. So right now it's on my local machine. It's not on GitHub. So once I publish this, it will become a remote repository as well. And I'm actually going to keep this code private. And by keeping this code private, others can't see it other than yourself. So let's just open it up on GitHub. And as you can see here, there's only 2 files. There's that README that I initialized, but I'm going to add a few things in here. So I'm just going to bring some of these files that I did for LIS4 as an example and go into my tutorial repository here. I'm going to add them in. And once I add them in, you'll notice that on the client here, it recognizes it immediately that there have been changes. So it's requiring you to add in a summary. And so I'm going to say adding files. And then you want a better description. I'm just doing a simple one. Repository. And I'm going to commit this to my main branch. So when you create a repository, you're going to start with a main branch, which is what I'm on now. And I'm going to push it to the origin, which these changes that I made, once you push here, it'll be made to the remote repository as well. All right, and then we'll see here, we're going to refresh. And it is now here, both of the files that we put in. And here's our branches. Here's one for main. Let's just say that I wanted to add an image to this, which I didn't in my first commit here. And I don't want to do it in my main branch. I want to make sure it works before I put it into main. So what I can do is I can create a new branch to work on my code before I merge it to main branch. So how can you do that? On here, you can create a new branch. And I'm just going to put image here. And I'm going to publish this branch. And now we're going to check here again. And you'll see that we have 2 branches now, which is great. We have the main branch and the image branch that I created. So we'll go back here and you see that currently I am working on the image branch. And let's open up my code in the Visual Studio Code here. It already knows what editor I'm using, which is great. And once I open this up, I can see my 2 files here. It does reference this image that I don't have. So I'm just going to bring it over. And then I know that I have a few other things on here, so I'm just going to delete these because it's not needed. Oh, nope, delete. There we go. And you'll see that it is here now. We're also going to look here. at the tutorial, the GitHub desktop here, and looks like this is added. So let's say added image of Carnegie Library. And I'm going to commit this. And so it's committed, but it's not, hasn't been pushed to the remote. So I'm going to do that here. All right. So what I'm going to check now is I'm going to go into my image branch. And now you should see that it has this image folder with this file, which is great. Now, if we went into the main branch, you'll notice that it does not have that image folder. Let's say that we checked here. Let's say we just run this here, run it and debug. Just to make sure, yes, the image comes out correctly. This is what we want. Since that is working correctly, I'm going to say I'm happy with it. I'm going to merge this image branch with my main branch. So I'm going to go to main branch here. I'm going to merge into current branch. Then I'm going to do a merge commit. And of course, you need to push it to make sure that it's reflected in your remote repository as well. And then we're going to refresh here. And now you see that even in the main branch, you have the images folder and the picture. All right, so now you kind of saw like different stages of code projects where you're working on different like features or adding things in, and having branches is a nice way to make sure that you're keeping track of different changes that you're making. And you can actually look here at the history, and you can see in the main branch here, you see the initial commit, adding of files here, and adding of this image. But let's say that I don't really want this image there. I'm gonna say like, let's just get rid of that. I want to go back to this version here. We can do that here by going to this added image, right-clicking, and actually revert changes and commit. So if you click on this and then push, you'll actually notice that when you go back here, that the images are gone. It reverted back to an older version. And in the desktop client, it also includes this as part of the history, as in this was deleted. Okay, so I've just shown you how to create local and remote repositories, and also shown you branches and how to do some merging and also version control. And now I'll show you how to clone remote repositories so that you can work on the code on your own machine. So I mentioned some examples of LAMs using GitHub. Here's one of them, the Library of Congress. And it looks like they have 55 repositories in their GitHub account. And here's some of their popular ones. They have APIs, and I'm actually going to go into this data exploration. And this one looks like it's tutorials for working with Library of Congress collections data. And a few things to note is if you come down here, you'll see the README that I mentioned before. And this tells you more about the repository, so you can look up how to use the APIs more here. And also this is important, which is the license agreement that they chose for this repository. And so you want to look at this to look at how appropriately to use the repository source code here. So then now that we looked at those, I'm just going to grab this URL and then go back to my client. And from here, go to File and Clone Repository. And here you have 3 different options. I'm just going to paste this URL because I grabbed it and I'm okay with where it's going. You can choose a different place in your file system. And I'm going to clone. And once it's done, looks like you are here. You can open it up in your Visual Studio Code. And you have everything that was in the remote repository here. You can also see it in my local data exploration repository here. It has everything here as well. So the next steps, if I was going to work with this data set, it's going to be to download Jupyter Notebook. One hint is whenever you're looking at the repositories, you can see the languages that are in the repositories here. It looks like 73.9% is Jupyter Notebook, which kind of tells me that I'll probably need to download the Jupyter Notebook software to work with these data sets. And then if you go back here, the same for here, this API looks like it uses Java and Python for these. All right. So we covered most of GitHub functionalities by using the GitHub desktop client. Some future explorations that you could do is learn more about pull requests and Git commands. Everything that you did today, or I did today on the GitHub desktop, you can actually do by using Git commands through your shell or terminal. And here are some resources for further learning. I have some documentation from GitHub itself, as well as some video tutorials and tutorials from W3 and Git. Thank you so much for watching.